Planet Mission Part 1 by David Claiborne, as read by the author. New chapters every Monday. The full novel is available on Amazon.com and other online retailers. Links in the description. Chapter 21. First Ride. Waters awoke as the morning light struck the table where he lay his head. So he had fallen asleep at some point after all, though he could not remember when. He got up, washed, and resolved to visit the city to see if he could speak to Molly again. He wanted to confront her about the things that kept him awake. He panted up the hill and arrived at the plaza in front of the narrow gate, determined and puffing. Colonists came and went around him and paid him little mind, though some nodded or waved a polite greeting. They had become accustomed to the missionaries by now. Jazzy's clinic, still standing after the storm but with scars in the fabric from their attempted repairs, stood empty. She was never one to get an early start. As of late, it seemed she had mostly abandoned the clinic, and Waters did not know how she filled her days. That was something he should probably know as director, but he could not bring himself to associate with her too closely, not yet. He was surprised the colonists permitted the structure to remain, semi-neglected, vagrant, and dilapidated as it was. Resolved in his mind, he walked to the gate only to meet the mayor himself. When Waters found the mayor, he watched the man pause for a moment and consider him before joining him. A Polus bear ambled up beside him, and the mayor patted the animal absent-mindedly, the bear responding with coos of delight as waves of magenta shivered down its coat. The mayor stopped in front of Waters, then mounted the Polus bear. "Come with me, Director," he said, extending his hand to pull Waters onto the beast's back. The Arcuda knelt with one leg extended. Waters did not feel he could refuse, so he took the mayor's hand and joined him for a morning ride. He sat behind the creature's vestigial wings, which fluttered. He looked down and realized just how tall these animals were and grasped the wings as a handhold. The Polus bear shuddered but did not seem to mind. For non-functional wings, they were surprisingly warm and muscular in his hands. Waters imagined one of these great animals flying, tiny wings fluttering madly, and smiled at the image. The mayor sat atop the Polus bear's shoulders, comfortably, confidently. He needed no handhold himself. "Hold on if you need to," the mayor said, "but it is his responsibility to see that you do not fall, so have faith." He did not take Waters back down the hill, or through the groves, or to the river or the vineyards, or to any of the places near and around the city the missionaries had visited many times before, and with which they had become quite familiar. Instead, they rode past Jazzy's clinic and around the wall and ascended the bowl that held the city close to the mountains. The path was wide and rocky. It rose here as it climbed the mountain, descended there as they came into a meadow, broadened in a field of vigorous green plants where a mountain spring broke from the rocks before it gave way to a boulder field as they rose above the tree line. Each rock might have required a few minutes to negotiate on its own on foot, but the Polus bear navigated the field with ease. It huffed and kept pace as if determined to please its riders. Waters' breathing quickened as they gained altitude. He was grateful for their mount, as he was certain he could not make the climb himself. The mayor breathed no differently than if he were seated on a couch. The boulders gave way to tundra filled with tiny flowers and close grasses when at last they came to a stop next to a cairn in the saddle between two peaks. They rode for several hours to get there, though as the distance and altitude increased, time began to matter less and less. The mayor was content enough with the morning ride and made no conversation. Waters' resolution to have Molly answer his questions faded the farther the mayor took him from the city. The mayor dismounted and fished around among the rocks. He dug out a large piece of a mineral like quartz, but with an aquamarine streak, and added it to the cairn. "What's that for?" Waters asked. "For fun," the mayor answered, "and tradition." Below they could see the city as if drawn on a map. A great cathedral stood at the center with its back to the city wall. It rose on the highest tier above the rest of the city, its spire towering over everything, visible from all around. Tiers of buildings fanned out in all directions. Even in the full sun, visible light emanated from the cathedral. The city filled the valley for several kilometers. Waters was surprised to see that it was a veritable metropolis. He assumed it was a small town or borough at best. Parks, buildings, and homes large and small dotted the landscape from wall to wall, yet it still seemed small and comfortable. The mayor pulled a bag from a pocket inside his poncho and passed Waters a muffin. "Patience made these," the mayor said. They were delicious. No doubt they were Vidi muffins. Waters swore the bits of fruit scattered throughout the baked goods glowed, even after cooking. He was not sure what he was supposed to do. The mayor did not seem to have much purpose in bringing him here, though the view was nice. He was at ease gazing out on the mountain, the city, the valley, and forest. Beyond, Waters swore they could see the plain covered in low clouds. Faint in the distance, he squinted at what he thought was the space elevator's cable and scaffolding, though he could not be certain. The thought was reasonable. They were only a few 100 kilometers from the spaceport. If construction had made good progress since the missionaries' departure, it could be tall enough to be visible over the curvature of the moon. The mayor finished his first muffin and munched on another. Waters was certain they would do nothing but sit when at last the mayor said, "You must have questions." Waters was not sure what the mayor meant. He did have questions, many questions, specifically about and for Molly, but was that what he wanted? Waters did not need to ask because the mayor continued. "Molly told me what happened yesterday, that she told you her story. I'm sure you must wonder how we could welcome someone who abandoned her family and faith." Waters did not know how the mayor could hit the question so exactly, but Waters needed no more encouraging. "Yes," he said. All that kept him awake the previous night poured forth. The mayor sat and listened. He pulled out a third muffin and continued eating and periodically drinking from a thermos as Waters spoke. "Molly used to be a Christian on Earth, or her parents were. To keep them from undergoing supplemental education, she denounced her parents and their religion publicly. We all saw the news, and agreed to join a mission whose specific purpose was to educate the colonists, you, about the benefits of the administration's programs, which most would argue are incompatible with any system of belief. She underwent the same training we did, albeit abbreviated, spent weeks on a spaceship with us, months on the moon, came here with a purpose, and then she abandoned the mission to join the very people we were meant to educate." Waters paused, considering his words before continuing. "I don't know how she could do that to her parents, though I think any sensible person should reject religion. If she had just done that, maybe the administration would have gone easier on her family. But then she rejected us, too. It turns out she believed all along despite our training and mission. She pushed it all aside to join up with you the first chance she got. Where does she even stand? She's a liar and a traitor to a lot of people right now, and I'm not sure I understand what I think about that, let alone what I should do about it as a mission director, or why you seem okay with it." Waters finished and felt a little relief at sharing his thoughts. "What do you know about forgiveness, Alex?" the mayor asked. "You mean saying you're sorry?" Waters responded. "Something like saying sorry, but forgiveness runs deeper," the mayor continued. "It doesn't even require an apology. A person can ask or give forgiveness, and if it is genuine, they free themselves from the burden of their wrongdoing. Did you know that Molly spoke to her parents before leaving your mission?" "She told us she did," Waters said. "When your Li-Fi window was open, she called and asked her parents to forgive her. Not that she harmed them. On the contrary, her denunciation saved them from your administration, even if it meant house arrest. She told them everything, though they knew all she had done already, and they forgave her. Did she tell you what her parents said?" Waters nodded. Molly did not give details, but he knew enough. "Knowing the consequences, knowing the best they could hope for was a return to supplemental education, but the more likely was remediation in a gulag, her parents told her to join the city," the mayor said. "You're telling me her parents remanded themselves to supplemental education so she could live in your city? I don't get it. I don't get it. What's so important about some stupid archaic beliefs? It's not worth your lives, your possessions, your daughter. How stupid can a person be?" "Molly has a brother as well," the mayor added. "That's even worse. They put their children through this? Who would be so selfish to put your children through this, all so you can subscribe to some outdated traditions?" "Wait, I see," continued Waters. "Here we are, up on a mountain, hours away from anyone, and you want to have a conversation with me? You've got me in the perfect place, I see. No place to go, no one else to argue with you. Just a misguided missionary with no choice but to sit and listen. Just like you tried to do to Jazzy. Well, I'm no fool. I'm not like her. I'd like to go back." The mayor looked hurt. Waters refused to make eye contact. "There's no need for me to take you back," the mayor said. A Polus bear bounded up without a word. Waters looked between the beast and the mayor. He felt it was a fool's choice, but in the end he took the ride. The Polus bear bowed to the ground and bent its knee. Waters wasted no more time. Waters stepped onto the creature's knee, and it lifted him onto its back effortlessly. He sat in front of the tiny wings and gripped the scruff of its neck. "Let's talk more later, Alex," the mayor shouted as Waters and the Polus bear hurried back down the mountain. Bo and Jazzy had been working on the rover's communications system since she awakened later that morning. It had functioned poorly since the storm, if it functioned at all. "I'm afraid our director is losing sight of the mission," Bo said. "I've had concerns about his effectiveness for many months now," Jazzy said. "We are overdue on our reports to Mufasa," Bo said. "We are, but they understand. They know about the atmosphere on Polus IV. Besides, once we get this working, we can report the damage from the storm, and that will include the damage to the rover's communications system," Jazzy said. "And Molly's apostasy," Bo said. "That too. Of course they'll need to know about that," Jazzy said. "Do you think Waters was planning to tell them?" Bo asked. "I'm sure it is already part of his next report," Jazzy said. "You could be the one making the report instead," Bo suggested. Jazzy shrugged, but did not argue. "You aren't the only two who can benefit from the mission's success. It means a lot to all of us. Sure, you are ahead in line, but who knows? All of us could end up as directors someday. Maybe even of Mufasa itself. Maybe even president," Bo said. "Bo, I'm surprised at you," Jazzy said. "I didn't know you were ambitious." "I've learned a lot of things on this mission. I feel I have a different perspective than when we first arrived," he said. "You should be director now. Mufasa needs to know what's happened." A piece of cable broke loose. Frustrated, Jazzy tossed it over the rover's side. "Look, I know I've been hard on Alex, but that's only because this is so important to me, to us. We need to give him a fair chance and support him." She touched Bo's arm gently. "Still, I'm glad I have your support," she said. "It's important to me too," he said. "When will it be time?" "Not yet. I'll tell you when it's time, but not yet."